if I wanted to factor this using factoring techniques that we might have learned in the past, in other words, doing some kind of factoring that would look like this, where you have two sets of parentheses, the way you would do that in the past would be we're just going to do x and x. We need to make the x squared. Now the middle term, if we were to write this out, it would be x squared plus 0x minus 121. So we would look for two numbers that multiply to make negative 121 and add to be 0. So negative 121, there's really only two numbers that would multiply to make that. It would be 11 and 11. One of them would have to be positive, and one of them would have to be negative like this. So we have a minus and a plus. So they multiply to make negative 121, and they add to be 0. So then you would just put minus 11 and plus 11 in here, and then that would be fully factored. If you were to multiply this out, x squared, you get 11x minus 11x cancels out, and you get negative 11 and 11 multiplied to make negative 121. Now, since this type of thing does happen more often, where you see two numbers squared with a minus in between, we can actually use a special factoring formula for this called the difference of squares. And this is what the difference of squares looks like. You have the first number squared, you have a minus, and then this you have something else that is squared. If you have that, it automatically factors into a plus b and a minus b. You just have to identify what the two things are that are being squared, and then they go inside the formula that we have here. So for this one, x squared minus 144. This one, if I want to write it x squared, of course, that would just be an x squared, and that's all you would have on that. But the 144, that would be the same thing as a 12 squared. So now we have two different things that are squared. We have an x that's squared and a 12 that's squared. Well, if we're going to use the difference of squares formula, the a would be the first thing that's being squared. So the a would be the x, and then the b would be a 12. So if we're following this formula, we would do x plus 12 and x minus 12. And that's how you would factor something using the difference of squares. You just have to identify the two things that are being squared there. We can do the same thing for this next problem. This one here, we can write as x that's squared, and we have a minus, and then the 100 can be written as 10 squared. So now the a would be x, and the b would be 10 this time. When we write this out using the difference of squares formula, we would have x plus 10 and x minus 10. So that would be fully factored using the difference of squares formula.